Hello, my name is Father Jim Clarke. I'm the Director for New Evangelization with the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. It's my honor to be with you via this video cast. I've written a book called Soul-Centered, Spirituality for People on the Go. And this time I'd like to share with you some insights about one of the chapters, Silence. Each one of these chapters deal with a different aspect of how to live a healthy, happy, and holy life. Silence is a necessary part of being human. It's a way of honoring the first language of God. Remember, it was out of silence, out of the void, that God created. And so it is for us. So the antithesis of silence is violence. Violence, very simply, is a conversation interrupted. Blaise Pascal, the very famous philosopher, said it this way: so much violence happens because people do not take at least 30 minutes of silence each day. Silence reconnects us with our creative self and recenters us in our authentic nature as human beings. It reminds us that there's a place just to be. Reminded of a story in my own life. Many years ago, I was waiting at a busy intersection to be able to go through the intersection when, from my perception, there were two young men in a beat-up old Ford pickup truck, and they went just a couple of feet and they stopped. All the traffic around me was moving around. Then they started laughing and pointing in my direction, and my perception was they were trying to get my goat, and obviously they did. I did not react in a very mature manner, and I readily admit, in a very embarrassing way, I flipped them off. That was not a smart thing to do. The passenger got out and kicked my door in. Thankfully, I was calm enough just to calmly move away, but when I came to my brother's block, I burst into tears. I was ashamed, I was angry, I was deeply sad, and I was fearful. For 3 days, I kept wrestling with what in the world just happened. And finally, I could calm down enough to hear what I sensed God was saying to me. You prayed to be a man of peace, did you not? Well, yes, Lord, obviously this isn't working. I'm showing you how violent you are. It was only in the silence of that alone time that I could finally hear and own the truth of my own inner violence and find an authentic way to peace. So after a family altercation, a rash judgment, a loss of focus at work, even an overwhelming reaction or attraction to someone, or a depressive feeling, I just invite you to sit in silence and wait for the interior conversation to begin. This is how wisdom and maturity develop and grow ever so slowly. In the book of Kings, we read about the story of Elijah. This holy man of God, this prophet, learned something very, very important, not only for him, but for God's people. And that is that God is found in the tiny whispering sound of the wind. God was not found in the strong wind, the earthquake, or even the fire, very powerful elements of nature, but instead in almost the silent presence of that wind. And so it is for us. Out of silence comes greater clarity or groundedness. It is silence that slows us down, helps to see things more clearly. It is silence that helps us to see and understand the meaning and significance of events in our lives. I'm told by musicians that what makes great music isn't so much the musical notes, it's the pause, the silence in between the notes. And so it is with our lives. Silence also helps us to experience the healing presence of the Creator. Reminded of a story that Eckhart Tolle tells about a client of his that came to see him. And as she sat down in the chair in his office, he asked her a very simple question: how are you doing? And she smiled and says, fine. And he could tell by the way she said it that it was not authentic. And so he said, no, really, how are you doing? And she burst into tears. And she began to tell her story. From a time of very young age, she had been abused. First by her father, then her brothers. It seemed like every man in her life had abused her in one way, shape, or another. She had never known a healthy human relationship with a man. And so Eckhart listened very carefully and he said, I think I can help you, but you're going to need to trust me. She kind of looked at him kind of funny and said, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And she said, I can't do it. And he said, well, I can't help you unless you can close your eyes. I'll tell you what, I'll sit over here in the corner. I won't even be close to you. Just listen to my voice. So she tried with great difficulty and finally she closed her eyes, but they were rapidly moving because she was so frightened. And he calmly said, I just want you to focus on your breath. That's all you got to do. And he could see, just by watching her body, that she was breathing very, very fast. And so it took her a while, but about 2 minutes in the experience, through closed eyes, she said, "What's this I'm feeling?" And he says, "I don't know, describe it." "Well, it feels like maybe butterflies in my stomach, or just this movement inside." And he says, "Well, some people call that peace, some people call it joy, some people call it happiness, even nervousness. Depends upon you." She said, "I like it." Then she sat there for another 3 minutes without saying a word. And just by observing her, Eckhart noticed that she was slowly changing in the way that she felt. And sure enough, at the end of 5 minutes, when she opened her eyes, she said through tears, "That's the first time in my life I've experienced that feeling." And Eckhart wisely said to her, "You know, you can experience it any time. When you choose to live in the moment by being present to silence, you are free from all the many different things that have happened to you in the past. So, what forms of distraction do you use to avoid feeling or facing inner pain from the past? How do you let go of your attachments to the past mistakes, traumas, or failures of your life?" I'd like to offer you just 3 ways that you might be able to take this theme of silence and integrate it into your life. First off, how about taking a long contemplative walk? It's not about exercise, it's not even about how far you're going, just to walk slowly and pay attention to what is, inside you or around you. Secondly, contemplative prayer. Contemplative prayer, very simply, is facing the reality of what is. It's observing without judgment. It's accepting what is. And finally, you can focus on an image or a word, and just slowly allow that image or word to work on you till you find and experience a peace or connection or deep release.